Did I take this here? Okay.
Yeah, you can hold it if you want. Explaining what you did with the desegregation of Boston busing.
Okay, well, I think I started either between the summer between high school and college, or maybe it was more like the summer after my freshman year in college. I was looking for a job, and a friend of mine's father knew somebody who knew somebody else. Here, let's shut this door. Ugh. And long story short, I got introduced to the head of this organization called the Citywide Educational Coalition, which was run by a woman named Mary Ellen Smith. It was in Boston, and it consisted of basically mothers who had school-aged children, and they had come together to try to facilitate the process of the integration of the Boston public school systems. So what had happened was, as was happening all over the country back then, there had been a determination by a federal judge, Judge Garrity, that Boston schools were improperly segregated and had to be desegregated, and they used busing to desegregate them, forced busing of white kids into black schools and black kids into white schools. And there was a lot of controversy over whether that was appropriate, not appropriate, and there have been books and books written on that, but in any case, there was all sorts of violence associated with that, protests, fights in the schools. The parents were encouraging, some of the parents were encouraging the kids to fight, and it was a mess. And there was this organization that was formed against busing called ROAR, Restore Our Alienated Rights. And they used to have these rallies to try to encourage disruption of the whole segregation process. So the organization that I worked for, Citywide Educational Coalition, consisted of parents from all different political spectrums. They were, some of them were very, very liberal and were in, some of them were very conservative and were against busing, but they made up their mind that busing was here to stay, and there was nothing they could do about it, and they just wanted to make sure that their kids were safe. And then there were some who had never been involved in anything relating to the public interest before. They were housewives, and they got involved for the first time in their lives because they were concerned about what was going on. So these were all unprofessional, that is non-professionals, just parents. The organization, as I said, was run by someone named Mary Ellen Smith, who was a professional organizer, and there were a couple of people on the staff who were professionals, but basically the group was parents. And they got to be very powerful, and they got into the schools, and they would help the schools set up structures so that the integration could proceed safely. You know, they would advise the schools on methods they could use to reduce violence in the schools. They were basically community organizers, and I worked for them probably for, I worked for them during the school year, at least 2 summers, and I was just doing isolated projects for them. One time I remember I was assigned to go to a ROAR rally, and I was terrified. I mean, these people were all basically hardcore conservatives opposed to busing, and I had to pretend I was one of them and kind of took notes of what was going on. It was really a scary time in Boston. So it was a great organization. I don't think it exists any longer, but you know, you could look up what ultimately happened with the Boston public schools in terms of integration. I don't think there's any more busing. I think they determined that the integration was successful, completed, whatever. But it was a very, very exciting and scary time back then.
All right, thank you.
That's the whole thing?